This is the Seahawkers podcast, episode 408. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me, my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
Hey, it's good to be back with you, man. Exciting week for us with training camp getting rolling, and then we're going to finish off Know Your Rivals, I think, right? Isn't that on the docket here?
I mean, should we wait until episode 409? Because 409 right in the title, it would work out numerological wise.
Numerologically? There it is.
Numerologically.
Yeah.
How is that such a tough word?
I don't know, but it is. And I don't think we make the 49ers any special accommodations.
Probably, it's probably just pronounced numerically.
Probably, but I like numerologically better. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Because it just rolls off the tongue.
It rolls off the tongue so much better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, we are closing out Know Your Rival season. It kind of stinks talking about our rivals when we actually have training camp going on, but we have some training camp stuff to talk to. We've been releasing our, every other daily video via YouTube and audio when with training camp. So the season has begun and we're starting to record shows almost daily.
Yeah, it's starting to crank it back up along with the guys there at the VMAX. So a lot more cool content coming your way, and we're really excited for this season. I hope you're as fired up as we are. One thing I'm not fired up about is the San Francisco 49ers and having to deal with them again at least twice, if not 3 times like last year.
Will it be 3 times like last year, though? I want to kick this off with a nice little study that I found by Pharoah Analytics, which projected the win totals in the NFC West. And the reason why I like this one so much, one, is because it has the Seahawks projected at 10.5 wins. I don't know how we get the half a win, but I suppose it just rounds out that way. I'll round up to 11 to help Pharoah Analytics out a little bit.
Yeah.
Second place, not the 49ers. The Los Angeles Rams in second with 9 projected wins.
How
you feeling about this so far?
I think that there's no possible way that they're correct. Well, that's not true. If you take the injury component out of things, there's no way that that's correct.
I think injuries are something that have to be factored in, though.
For sure.
And having a very injury-prone team, just by the fact that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan like to go and pick up free agents and draft guys who are prone to injury, it tends to work out badly year in and year out for some reason with guys getting injured. It's weird how that works.
To be honest, their last 2 years have been relatively healthy years for them. So they are definitely due because they skipped the pattern last year. Now you say, well, they were healthy last year, and they'll be like, well, we went through 3 quarterbacks. How can you say that we were healthy? Talking in relative health compared to how you guys have been over the Shanahan era. And it'll be interesting to see if they get another pretty healthy year out of Bosa, out of McCaffrey, out of whatever quarterback happens to trot out onto the field.
Yeah, I thought you were going to go with another Purdy healthy year. But finishing with the win totals, Cardinals, 7.5 in the NFC West. And closing it out, Pharoah Analytics projecting the San Francisco 49ers to finish the year with 6.5 wins.
Go home, Pharoah Analytics. You're drunk, and you may be high too.
No, this is the perfect model. Don't ever change. This is awesome because it's the exact content that I want for Know Your Rivals season to kick off the year.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. The only thing I don't like is how many wins that the Cardinals and the Rams ended up with.
It seems like too much, right?
Yeah.
Scale that back.
Yeah, just give us more.
Yeah.
And
put us up around 11 or 12. The Rams, they can top out at 8 and call it good.
Okay. So there's pie in the sky win totals that we can look at there. Probably not going to be the case.
I just think it's a good way to frame this episode is how do the 49ers get to about 6 or 7 wins this season?
Well, it is completely possible if you really think about their history. And we talked about the injuries just a bit ago. The idea that they're going to get a whole nother season out of Christian McCaffrey, good luck with that. I'll believe it when I see it. I can't believe they got as much as they did last year out of him.
I know. After acquiring him, he made it through the rest of the season and into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Which may be a Christian McCaffrey record since his rookie and sophomore year in the NFL.
Yep. Since his first 2 years, he's had a rough go staying on the field, especially with a team that isn't exactly known for keeping guys healthy and that sort of thing. And we'll see if Debo makes it through another season and all that stuff. Now, I can hear Niners fans already. All you're counting on is just the injuries. And it's like, no, I'm also counting on the recoveries or when the recoveries may happen. I don't know if you heard, Brandon, but Brock Purdy back with no restrictions except for a pitch count on how much he throws, which I think is a restriction, but no restrictions. He's back.
No restrictions. He can only throw so many balls a day. He can't throw 2 days in a row. He can't throw unless his mom is in the stands watching. Other than that, no restrictions.
No restrictions. So, yeah, although I will say the reports that he's back and throwing in camp and that sort of thing, if you're a Niners fan, that should be encouraging because one of the big narratives has been, well, who are they going to play a quarterback early in the year? It looks like it's Brock Purdy.
It is feeling that way. And I would think that if you're a 49ers fan, you would want to lean that direction, although there's 49ers fans who can't seem to make up their mind if they want Trey Lance to be good or not good or just be better than Brock to be able to take the job. I suppose you just want the best guy playing, although I don't always get that sense from Niners fans. It's like they've invested all this emotional energy into Trey Lance being good with that 3rd overall pick that they can't quite get out of that mentality to root for Brock Purdy, who was picked at the very end of the draft.
Look, man, it's never going to be the Trey area. Okay. It just isn't going to happen there for him. I imagine that Purdy goes out and keeps his job. I don't see Sam Darnold unseating either of these two guys. And I did forget, though, that Trey Lance rubbed up against Patrick Mahomes and is not great. So I did forget about that.
That's in the offseason. Yes, he did spend time training with Patrick Mahomes, who I don't know if you heard this was featured in a Netflix series that focused on quarterbacks. And so he's been the talk of the offseason.
If you're a quarterback like Geno, after watching that and seeing Pat Mahomes go out and do the show and then win the Super Bowl in the same season, how you topping that? So why even do it?
I guess he turned it down.
I know. I'm real happy about that decision.
I would have liked some additional Seahawks content at the end of the year and in the offseason next year, but it's a personal choice that it probably makes more sense for him to not have that distraction. But selfishly, I did want that distraction a little bit.
Oh, that I can get on the selfish level. You bet. I would love to see Geno on there, but from a team perspective, no, thank you. Maybe it'll be Brock Purdy next year.
Maybe it'll be Brock Purdy. Maybe it'll be Sam Darnold. Shoot, maybe it'll be Brandon Allen, who, according to one reporter who's been following snap counts at 49ers training camp, it's been Brock Purdy who's been getting majority of the reps at 41%. Trey Lance followed up with that 22% if you round up. Sam Darnold, 19%. Brandon Allen, 18%, which if you look at that trio as a whole and just notice that Trey Lance is getting 3.5%, 4% more snaps than Brandon Allen.
Yeah.
Why would you not shift some of those Brandon Allen snaps to Trey Lance if he's potentially going to be the young guy that might need to carry you until Brock Purdy's fully healthy?
I think Brandon Allen's definitely better than Sam Darnold. I liked him like I liked Brock Purdy coming out of the draft. One of those later round guys. You're like, he can play on time and in rhythm and do the thing. And that's exactly what Shanahan wants. I think he's better for that offense than either Sam Darnold or Trey Lance.
Then why isn't Brandon Allen getting 30% of the snaps? If you want,
why wasn't Brock Purdy the starter week 1 last year? He was on the roster.
It just seems like you would pick a dude, give him most of the snaps, and roll with it.
I'm surprised that Shanahan even learns the quarterbacks' names. I'm surprised he doesn't just call them all QB1.
Yeah.
Hey, it's QB1. And because he doesn't give a shit.
Catfish
No.
It's just, I want a dude that goes out there and just throws the ball where he's supposed to when I tell him to. That's it. And then hand the ball off a lot.
Which has generally worked out for him. And I suppose if you just need a machine like that in the system, then maybe it makes sense to balance them all out that way, especially considering the offensive line that wasn't able to keep one quarterback healthy for the entire season. And they haven't done a whole lot to improve that offensive line in the offseason.
Yeah, in fact, they lost McGlinchey to the Broncos. That's one of their big losses on the season. And, you know, some Niners fans love him, some hate him. I know he's up and down a little bit, but overall, he's a very good right tackle. Slightly above average, if not pretty darn good, right? And I think that's going to be a blow. I think they're looking at a second-year guy to fill in at right tackle this year.
Colton McKivitz.
Yeah.
A 5th-round pick in 2020.
Right. So, yeah, a little change up front to a line that, again, just like so well put by you, Brandon, couldn't keep a quarterback healthy to save their life last year.
So you got McKivitz at right tackle. You've got, I guess, one move that they made in the offseason. They have Jake Brendel coming back at center, who there was a question of whether or not he'd be able to fill in when Alex Mack left. And he did a decent enough job, obviously, to be the only guy who got like a 4-year deal in the offseason among 49ers players. There was one other free agent that they signed long-term, which is annoying to me. But they got Spencer Burford at right guard. They've got, of course, Trent Williams maintaining that left side, who is really, really good. You don't have to worry about him at all. And then Aaron Banks as their left guard.
Until Father Time catches up with him, and that could be any year. He's old, man.
He's not super old, though.
Yeah, he is. He's in his late 30s.
He's in his early 30s. His 2010 draft. He was born in 19. Oh, okay. He's 35. Or he's going to be 35 soon. This month.
So that's exactly why we both thought one way or the other, because he's right in between his late and early 30s.
He's right in the middle, in his mid 30s.
Yeah. I mean, but that is getting up there in age, 35.
That's true. When did Dwayne Brown finally pack it in for us?
I mean, you can't be awesome forever. Father Time runs the fastest 40 out there. You can't outrun him.
That's okay. They can have one good dude on their offensive line. Obviously, they did last year, and it didn't help that much.
No, it didn't help that much last year. And that's the thing when you're looking at these Niners, you look offensively, what's really changed? And the answer is a lot of bupkis. Like, it's going to be same bat time, same bat channel, same dudes, same problems.
You got Deebo Samuel. You got Brandon Ayuk. You got Juwan Jennings lining up in the slot. Christian McCaffrey in the backfield. They still have the only fullback in the entire league, and Kyle Juszczyk. And that's
hell of a player.
He's a heck of a player. And Shanahan knows how to move all these offensive pieces. George Kittle, they've managed to keep him relatively healthy every year, despite the physical position that he plays. Although it was Kittle who recognized that the window could be closing on this 49ers team. I don't know if you saw his quote this last week, but Kittle said, "We have a great core of guys at really important positions. We understand that the window, whatever that is, could be closing. We're going to try our best just to keep that window open as long as we possibly can, but we're going to try and sneak out some wins while that window is still open, according to everybody else." So, George Kittle, recognizing that, I don't know if it's just because of the veterans on the team, if he's referring to himself, if he's referring to Trent Williams, some of the other guys on the defensive side of the ball, but if you're talking about your window potentially closing, it's because it is.
Well, and it does logically make sense. This core has been around now for 5-6 years, would you say? There's been some guys who have come and gone, right? But
if you're talking about the core of
Kittle, Debo, Bosa, any of the defensive linemen you want to add on there, except for Buckner, obviously, since he was traded to the Colts.
It's like the fourth year, because Bosa was in 2019. Debo was 2019.
So about 4 years.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, that's kind of the way the NFL cycles these days. It's much like college programs. It's about every 4 or 5 years, you're kind of having to reset, reboot, rebuild, however you want to do it, or just re-kick ass like Pete Carroll did this last year. However you want to do it. I like the way Pete does it. It's going to be
real
interesting
well for us, right? Yeah. Just have one down year where you only win, like between 7 and 9 games, and then start kicking butt again.
Just so down. Yeah. So I think Kittle's right. I think it's probably this year is their last real year to get after it, because you're seeing Bosa, he's going to get paid and he's holding out right now. Not that I think that's a big deal for the 49ers in any way, shape, or form. He's going to get his money at some point. He's going to be a 49er. He will be there week 1. He doesn't need to practice. It'll be fine. But the McCaffrey trade, like in the Trey Lance trade and all those draft picks and draft capital and everything they've done to get to this point. I mean, you got to pay the piper at some point. And, they just paid Debo last year. Ayuk's going to want a deal. The disease of more does kick in on winning teams. It just does. It's the way it is.
And when you talk about the guys that are getting up there, I mean, 28 years old for Christian McCaffrey is getting up there for a running back. And that's unfortunately the way it is for that position, especially when you deal with that many injuries. But obviously this team is still good. They were good last year, good enough to make it to the championship game against the Eagles, and until they didn't have a healthy quarterback anymore. But they did get better too on the defensive side of the ball, at least on the defensive line, with the signing of defensive tackle Javon Hargrave from the Eagles. I think so.
Did they get better? Because here's where, like, you look at the offense, you're like, okay, here's the new boss, same as the old boss, whatever, all the same dudes, right? Key departures from the defense this year. Charles Omenihu, he goes to the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Ebukam, he goes to the Colts. Both those dudes are good defensive linemen.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're big time contributors for them. The starting corner Mosley to the Lions, linebacker Al Shazier to the Titans, safety Jimmy Ward. Like,
well, I'm speaking just on the defensive line, and I'm just speaking on starters. It is an important piece, though, to talk about depth, because you brought up Ebukam and Omenihu. Well, they lost Hassan Ridgeway to the Texans, who played defensive tackle. They lost Maurice Hurst to the Browns, who played defensive tackle. So they lost a lot of depth on the defensive line. But in terms of an upgrade, Javon Hargrave at 30, so it's relatively young for an interior defender. You're not expecting a step back. That's why they're comfortable giving him a 4-year deal, $80 million 4-year deal. And those guys can be spendy there in the middle of the defensive line, as we found out with our own defensive lineman and Draymond Jones. But it's an improvement, I think, in terms of their starters, because now they don't have to worry about who's the dude that was picking on the 49ers reporter that's on the defensive line that I don't see him listed among the starters now.
Starts with a K.
Kinlaw.
Last name does. Kinlaw. Yeah. He gone?
Well, he's still there. He's just, you're not expecting. You got Javon Kinlaw backing up Javon Hargrave.
Interesting.
The double Javons.
Yeah, all the Javons. Look, Javon Hargraves is a hell of a player. And Aaron Donald, he is not, but nobody else is. And then there's that next tier down of really freaking good and some of the best in the business. And he's definitely in that tier. And yeah, as a Seahawks fan, you look at that and you go, okay, we better have our interior line figured out by the time we get to the Niners. But we did see over the course of the year last year, the first game wasn't competitive. Let's be honest. Yeah. We scored on a block field goal that Tyreek Woolen blocks, and then Mike Jack takes it to the house, right? So that was the only points in the game. And we got beat. Second game was a little bit more competitive. We hung in there. It was within a touchdown. Niners fans will tell you it wasn't that close. Well, they're full of catfish. And then obviously in the playoffs game, we were leading at half and within 7 entering the fourth quarter. So the team got closer and closer and closer. And I think with all of those defensive losses, just roster speaking, I think these rosters have gotten far closer. And that's factoring in the Hargrave addition, because we're talking about the Rams as if they're going to win 5-6 games. And that's with Aaron freaking Donald.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have any depth around him. Like, he can only do so much. They're one dude.
There is still some depth here on the Niners, though. They didn't just not fill behind those positions. They picked up Clelin Ferrell from Vegas, who, he's been a disappointment in terms of where he was drafted at number 4 overall. But I could see him fitting within this Niners defense and being opposite of Nick Bosa and being fine, especially lining up next to Hargrave. And they bring back Kerry Hyder, former Seahawks legend Kerry Hyder, and throw him back into the mix to where the place where he was getting, almost double-digit sacks a couple years ago.
Yeah, on that one fluky year. Farrell, he's Kerry Hyder. Like, I mean, they're the same type of dude, right? Just a guy who plays on the defensive line. They're just guys. But
they end up playing well based on who's around them, because you're worrying about Bosa. You're worrying about Fred Warner at linebacker. Eric Armstead is still pretty good, and they've got Hargrave now. So if you have those types of role players within your depth that don't cost a whole lot and they can be productive, they can still have a dangerous defense up front, especially.
Oh, sure. I'm not saying they're going to be like a bottom third defense or anything like that. But the idea that they're just going to come out and be dominant again, are we sure? Just because there has been significant change, and you say, well, okay, they've got Hargrave, Armstead, and Bosa. Cool. That's a nice 3-headed monster. I'm with you. I'd be excited about that too if they were, on our team. However, what makes a defensive line great are the guys and the bodies that you can throw in behind those guys. And you're saying Colin Farrell and Kerry Hyder are difference makers like Ekubam or Amenahu. And I don't think they are. I think they're definitely a step down from those guys. So the consistent pressure that you saw Geno deal with when we played the Niners, there are going to be times when they don't have that the way that they did a year before. And now you're looking at the back end of a secondary too, with a lot of questions with, Jimmy Ward leaving. He played some slot. He did safety, did a bunch of things, and Mosley taken off as well. So it's not just a slam dunk for these guys that they're going to be good again. And then, let us not forget, they lost D'Amico Ryans to the Texans.
Right.
That's a big freaking deal. Kyle Shanahan is not a defensive coach.
Yeah, the back end of that defense would be where my concerns would be if I were a Niners fan. Yeah, Emmanuel Mosley going to the Lions, Jimmy Ward to the Texans. So you have, let's see, at one of your cornerback spots, Commodore 64 Lenore. Chavarius Ward coming back, which he had a nice year last year. They get Tayshaun Gibson back, who played pretty well last year for him. He was in Chicago before. And Hufanga is kind of their Pro Bowl, All-Pro. Is he All-Pro? Pro Bowl safety, at least.
He was the best guesser in the league last year for half a year.
And they got Isaiah Oliver from Atlanta playing nickel.
Okay.
He was okay for Atlanta.
A god-awful defense, yeah.
Yeah, he was okay.
Yeah, just, so there's that, I guess.
Still, when I look at this defense, especially compared with the defenses that we've talked about with the Rams, with the Cardinals, clearly a better defense, but I see questions here. And yes, I see questions with the Seahawks, but it's almost like an equal amount of questions.
Yes.
So it's not the lock in terms of defensive eliteness that we were used to the last couple of years with the Niners.
Oh, 100%. And then you factor in they're riding a wave of health that, team wise that they had for a good long time. I'd be surprised as these players get a little older that pans out for them this year. And one of the funnier narratives to me is everybody's like, well, Geno did it for 1 year. He's a one-hit wonder. Screw Geno. That sort of thing. Brock Purdy is going to come back and be Brock Purdy again next year.
Yeah, undefeated.
Mr.
He's going to go
Irrelevant?
undefeated once he comes back into the game, just like he did as a rookie.
Are we sure? Like, again, just another.
We don't
one
even
of
know
those.
if his elbow is going to be all that well recovered from this past year. You got conflicting reports coming out of camp of people saying, "Oh, he looks great," and people going, "Oh, he looks awfully rusty." What is it?
Well, a lot of hard telling, not knowing. That's what it is, man. Like, remember, the reporters and everybody, they only get to see what they're allowed to see at training camp. All right. So just remember that when you're hearing these narratives and things like that. That's why I personally like going through the pressers a little bit more. And while, of course, they're only saying what they want you to hear, kind of read between the lines a little bit more. Whereas, I don't know, just watching blocking drills, like it's hard to know if Brock Purdy's doing great in camp or struggling. Who knows?
Until we get to see these guys out there playing in real life speed and all that. Yeah, we're not really going to know.
No.
So should we talk about the 49ers draft picks? And they had a heck of a haul this year, right?
I forgot to go back and look at their draft. So you tell me.
Let's try to pull it up. I was hoping that you had an answer while I was.
No, I've got 0 of those for you. You are on your own. We were both equally unprepared, and now I feel okay about it.
Well, I was looking at the depth chart, noticing that there's an awful lot of green within it. None of those green markers were necessarily in the starting positions when I go to the ourlads.com depth chart.
Okay.
Other than new place kicker Jake Moody, drafted in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
So they waited till the 3rd round to get a start. Well, I don't even think that they had a pick in the 1st or 2nd round because of their, they didn't have a pick in their 1st and 2nd round.
C-Mac. Yeah.
Based off of their trades earlier.
A lot of people kill him for the kicker pick and all that. I'm one of those that if you're damn sure this guy's awesome and he's going to be your kicker for the next 10 years, you're telling me a 3rd round pick is a bad investment? Get out of here. How many games are won and lost on the foot of the kicker? How many Super Bowls would the Chargers have if they had a kicker?
Right.
Over the last 15 years? 2?
It's not a sure thing, though. You could draft dudes. We've seen kickers drafted really high, and they haven't worked out.
Sure.
So to spend a 3rd round
you got egg
pick
on your face for sure. But if it works out, like it's not a dumb pick.
Oh yeah,
it's not.
Hey, Sebastian Janikowski, great 1st round pick. That dude played for forever.
Yeah, it was damn good. And
but you whiff on that, then you really look like a moron.
Right. I think you hit on those more than you miss. The higher drafted kicker.
Maybe. If you're talking about guys, it would have to be 4th round and higher, right?
Sure.
That'd be an interesting study to do in the offseason when there's not actual football to talk about. Like, what's the actual success rate of drafting kickers from the 4th round and above, which is maybe something that we'll look at when it's time to move on from Jason Myers as a Seahawks fan.
Exactly. Yeah. Not happening anytime soon. So, well, unless he really has a weird year this year, but
yeah,
the loss of Robbie Gould, that's again, another significant loss that a lot of people just gloss over. Well, they lost their kicker. Well, who cares? Robbie Gould helped them win a lot of games. You know, it's still a part of the game.
And when I look at them and say a lot of draft picks, I guess it's not Rams level unless you count all of their additions through free agency. But they did have 3 3rd round picks. A couple of those were compensatory picks. Cameron Latu at tight end, who's listed as their 3rd string tight end. They also have another tight end, Braden Willis, who was drafted in the 7th round. So they went, despite not having a lot of picks, they went heavy on tight end. Maybe smart considering that's an easily injured position. In the 3rd round, they also got Jair Brown, who's backing up Hufanga at safety. Robert Beal, who's on the defensive line. So with all of the defensive line subtractions, they did invest in their defensive line in terms of free agents and the draft. And then
late in the draft, low tier free agents. Cool.
Couple of linebackers on the 6th and 7th round. D. Winters, who's listed as the 3rd string weak side linebacker, and Jalen Graham, who's listed as the 4th string middle linebacker. You've also got Ronnie Bell, who is 3rd string receiver in the slot. There you go. Ran through the draft picks. Good thing we prepped for that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Just like the Rams throwing darts at the wall and hoping a few things hit. It's basically all you can do when you're stuck with just low round draft picks. Now, if you're a good GM and you go out and say, I don't know, steal somebody else's top 5 draft pick for a dude who's looking like he's washed at this point, maybe you go and do something like that. Then you have draft picks and are still good. It's usually how you do it if you're good, but
that's how winning franchises over the long term have tended to do it based off of what we've seen.
Yeah.
How is it that Sean McVay with the Rams and another pretty boy in the division in Shanahan get all the credit as these amazing coaches, and they haven't been able to do it consistently? They have a good year up, then they're back down again. Then they come back, and now the Rams are going to be bad for a while. And yet here's old Pete Carroll, still super handsome like his other NFC West counterparts, but maybe not on the young side, and doesn't get any of the credit.
Yeah. That's because he doesn't want to throw it 35 times a game, just like Shanahan. But since Shanahan's young, people seem to think that's awesome. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. I really don't get it.
Except Geno threw more than probably any quarterback in the division last year.
I know. It threw for the most yards in franchise history.
Yeah, and the most pass attempts too in
Pete's
recent
stuck
memory.
In the mud.
Yeah,
he's stuck in the mud, dude.
Have you seen that chart with the Geno? No, it was all just Seahawks passing under Pete Carroll. And in 2013 and 2012, it was relatively low. But all the other years are relatively high in terms of the passing numbers. How does he get this?
Narratives.
I guess.
Narratives.
Just because he talks about how he likes to run the ball.
Yeah. Just like the Niners are shoo-in to win the division again and be in the NFC Championship game and all that stuff, right? We've all been hearing it all offseason. You sick of it yet? Because I am. I am.
Yeah, I'm sick of it too, because just it totally overlooks Geno Smith once again, despite having an incredible year last year and doing it in a way that should be repeatable. A guy who's at 70% completion percentage, you can't fluke your way into 70% completion percentage. It just can't be done.
It doesn't happen. It really doesn't.
Unless you're throwing a lot of screens and short passes, which is not the Seahawks offense.
And not only that, but to be a veteran that comes in and does it consistently like that over a year and get that 70% completion percentage, that is so less fluky than, say, I don't know, the last pick in the draft coming out and just crushing it for 6 games and then going to be a Super Bowl champion this year. You tell which one feels more fluky? The guy who's been working at his craft for the last 10 years, or Brock Purdy coming from the Midwest and just waiting for everybody else to die on the field so he gets a chance?
Hey, come on. Has Geno Smith been eating Iowa corn? Probably not. So there's your answer.
There's your answer. No, he's just eating the salmon right now, right?
All the salmon.
Yeah.
Which I guess you eat the cuisine of where you're from. So I don't know what Bronk's doing now that he's off the corn.
I don't know.
Now he's in Santa Clara. What's the local cuisine of Santa Clara? Wine and cheese. That's right.
Yeah.
I would think salmon would beat wine and cheese any day.
Depends on what you're going for.
I'm going
Get rid of that cheese, and all of a sudden now you got a stew.
I'm going for elite NFL quarterback, because I think.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, maybe salmon's the way to go.
Maybe the way to go.
I thought it was just maybe being able to stand being in Levi's Stadium for 3 hours, and then the wine might be your ticket.
That's what you need to get through 3 hours at Levi's Stadium.
Yeah.
Niners fans are going to be particularly annoying once again this year. That's to be expected. But depending on how the talent of this team, if this 49ers team gets off to a rough start, you're going to see Niners fans abandon this group of guys pretty quickly.
They always do. They practically jumped ship last year.
Right?
Yeah.
There's some of them that still can't get on board with Brock Purdy, despite all of his success from last year. Let's look at their schedule just to start things off.
Okay.
49ers at Steelers. So starting off on the road against what could be a tough defense.
Pharoah Analytics said how many wins for them? 6.5?
6.5.
Okay, let's see if we can find their 6.5 wins here.
2 games. They start off back-to-back road games with the Steelers and the Rams, which, although the Rams would be a de facto home game because they tend to fill up their state. Like, Niners fans will go to that game because it's the second game of the year. They will not have jumped ship yet.
And in the circle of NFC coaches, Shanahan's McVay's daddy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That feels like a 1-1 start, right?
Yeah. I mean,
it could be. They could start
I guess
out
if they
2-0.
lose to the Steelers, but I'm not a Pickett believer or really a Steelers believer.
That game could go either way to me too. But I'm going based on the Pharoah Analytics model. That game would tell me, or that model would tell me that game's a loss.
Probably. So they're 0-2 according to Pharoah.
No. The Niners, don't the Niners beat the Rams?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. 1-1.
Giants come to town.
That's a win
for the Niners. Gross.
The Giants aren't good. They're not fucking good. I wish the East Coast bias would finally figure it out that they lucked themselves in with a little bit of great coaching from Dable. Like, they're not good. Daniel Jones is a dumpster fire. He sucks as a quarterback. He sucks. And Saquon's pissed.
Yeah,
they stink.
Saquon's pissed. He runs over the Niners defense. They eke out a win. And I just, maybe because we need that win based on these next opponents for the Niners.
There we go.
Cardinals at Niners, then Cowboys at Niners. They have 3 games at home. Giants, Cardinals, Cowboys.
Cowboys is a losable game for them.
That's true. Okay. And
it's early season. That's when Dak is lighting it up and they score a bunch of points.
Yeah. And the Cardinals, by the Pharoah Analytics model, were projected to finish ahead of the Niners. So that could be 3 straight losses.
Yeah. So they must sweep the Niners.
Oh, let's see.
I was told in the YouTube comments, Brandon, that Kyler is going to be starting week 1. And we're all just numbnuts out here. So
week 1?
Yeah.
Come on now.
He's already running in a straight line.
Yeah. I would believe that Jordan Brooks is going to be out there week 1 before I believe Kyler's out there week 1.
100%.
Okay. So let's say they're 3-2 to start the season after those 5 games. Hopefully they get into some more difficult opponents here so we can get them to that 6.5 wins. At the Browns, at the Vikings.
Those are both interesting teams. And you could sell me on about any outcome for the season of the Browns and or Vikings.
So maybe 1-1, but possibly that Browns defense could be tough.
I know,
especially against that 49ers offensive line. Okay. Middle of the season. They, let's see. Where are they at in terms of their bye week? No, they haven't got to their bye week. I'm going, you know what? Let's go 3 straight losses because then they're playing the Bengals next to finish out October. So they get out to a 3-2 start and people are feeling pretty good. Then they lose 3 straight going into the bye week and they're 3-5.
All right. This is as wishful and happy as I could be just thinking about this. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay. Coming out of the bye week, they go on the road back to the East Coast and they take on the Jacksonville Jaguars.
That's an L.
That's an L coming out of the bye week.
I'm big on the Jags this year. I am.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
4 straight losses. All right. Then Bucks. They should be able to beat the Bucks because who knows what the Bucks are going to be this year.
It's going to be Baker winning comeback player of the year. And one of those big wins is his win over the 49ers.
All right. So we're at 4-7.
Stop getting mad, 49er fan, right about now. This is just for us. You shut up.
Oh, wait. No, they were at 3 wins going into the bye week.
There you go.
See, I'm already losing track.
Whatever. We'll just say win-loss after these games, and then we'll say that the total to 6.
We'll add it up at the end. Okay.
No, we won't even add it up. We'll just say a total to
6 wins.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the point of their schedule that actually gets difficult. So even though they've sucked up to this point, now is when it gets hard. 49ers at Seahawks on Thanksgiving. Automatic L.
Yeah.
Then they go on the road to the Eagles and lose to them to start off December. Man, that sucks for the Niners who haven't won a game since. Did we give them the win against the Cardinals? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. So they did have a win in October. Then they come back and it's a game against the Seahawks again in December. This time it's at home, but they lose. 49ers Cardinals in December in Arizona.
How is the 49ers interim head coach handling this at this point this season?
Did Kyle Shanahan take a leave of absence after the bye week, or is he fully
If you
fired?
want to put it kindly, sure. Jed York is a very nice man that way.
Then they finish off the year against the Ravens at their house, go on the road to the Commanders, and play the Rams to close out the season, where they do get the win for their 6th victory of the season.
There it is. That's how they get to 6-ish wins.
Count it up and make sure. If you're a Niners fan, go back and re-listen to what we just said. Do the calculations perfectly, but then you have to go back and double and triple check, Niners fans, and then post in the comments exactly how correct we were.
6 wins is plausible with a Purdy and Bosa injury, a Purdy and Kittle injury, a Purdy and Debo injury.
Yeah.
Like
Brandon Allen looking good against the
Brandon
Eagles.
Allen.
And
you get his name out of your mouth. You talking crap about Brandon Allen. I like Brandon Allen.
Well, who's going to be quarterback if it's not going to be Purdy?
It's probably going to be Lance.
Yeah.
Got to try. Got to see.
Suppose.
Unless he just stinks in training camp.
It's just going to be hard to move on from that. And we're even seeing it with Purdy because Shanahan hasn't even said that he's for sure starting, even if he is healthy. Like he won't.
John Lynch did.
Did he? Okay.
More or less. I mean, he's like, well, Purdy played pretty well last year.
So he is wishy-washy and he's not even the guy in charge.
I'm just saying. Yeah. Like, duh, it's going to be Purdy.
I think so.
If he's healthy. Of course it is. And the idea that you can't walk away from Trey Lance if you're the 49ers front office. I mean, I think they would have traded him this offseason if there was any sort of market for him. I don't know that there's any point in this point in the process being like, oh, well, we traded all that draft capital, then we might as well give him yet another chance. I mean, if you can find a deal for him, then
there's no trade market for him apart from. Because what are you, unless you were scouting him as a team and were really high on him and saw a whole lot from his time in the game over these last few years, which unless you're not watching tape, it'd be really hard to do. Find that one team that wants to give up high draft picks.
What do you think is an appropriate draft pick to be traded for Trey Lance? Like I'm John Lynch. You're calling me up right now, and you want Trey Lance.
I would do a 4th, and you could probably twist my arm for a 5th or 6th to go along with it.
Let's do it. Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's if I'm
a 5th seems about right to me, but yeah, no, a 4th, you bet.
That's if I'm really desperate.
Yeah.
But that's it. And you would think that they would, well, I don't know. Do you do that? With so many questions for the Niners at quarterback, if Purdy were healthy and didn't have the arm injury coming off of that,
okay,
then you probably do make that deal because it's his team and you got Brandon Allen, you got Sam Darnold, so you have depth. Why not make the move for him and get a couple picks?
Oh, maybe that's the point. You throw Purdy out there one more year, see if he was a one-hit wonder, see if he can hold up physically, and then you kind of know. And then you deal with the Trey situation at that point, which is losing him for nothing probably. And
because a 4th and a 5th round pick, that is nothing. That's deciding that it's relatively nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing.
I mean, you used your 3rd round pick on a kicker, so it's not like you care about draft picks that much.
Right. Excellent point.
On to the second half of the show.
Good. I'm tired of talking about these ass draft picks.
As we get into the second half of the show, which I like to refer to in an episode like this, the good half of the show.
Yeah.
Be sure and like and subscribe to our videos if you're watching out on YouTube.
Oh, right. Good job.
Yeah. Thanks. I remembered it eventually.
Yeah.
Coming out of the break, it's a good time to remember that if you've made it this far, to give us a little thumbs up on the YouTube side. And if you haven't yet decided to subscribe, do that. And also, if you're listening on the podcast side, subscribe there too. Seahawkerspodcast.com/subscribe for all the different places you can listen to the show.
And then you get all Seahawkers podcasts all the time. It's going to be great for your deal.
Everybody's going to love the season. Lots and lots of Seahawks talk. We've been talking, and one of the comments that came in, because Devon Witherspoon, he did sit out of training camp for a couple of days. But an interesting question that came in via the chat as we were posting our show the other night. It was from Jacob Haas.
Oh,
saying, did the Witherspoon situation make you think there could be issues down the road? I think this comes from, too, being a corner and a lot of these guys being seen as tending toward the diva side just because the nature of their game, like they have to be one-on-one with the receiver on every single play. So there's a level of confidence. And then also sometimes a level of confidence that just ignores when you have bad plays because you have to shut that stuff out to be a good corner. And so with him holding out, is that something that we could see as maybe being on the personality side, I suppose, with Witherspoon? Maybe. It's a little hard telling, not knowing, but this felt a little bit more agent driven than it did Witherspoon driven. Just because, the agents are looking out for their dudes, number one. And then secondly, it's your very first contract. And I know there's not a ton of wiggle room, but yeah, get it as much guaranteed up front as you can, man. You do that. And I think part of it is the agents kind of are just like, I want to see if I can. Can I get them to do this? And give me some time, and you can miss a day or two of training camp. That'd be kind of my guess. Now, when it comes time for that first extension, and with him being a all-pro every year of his first 4 years of his career, like what that looks like, I don't know. It's going to be a big contract when he basically secures our trip to this year's Super Bowl with a pick in the end zone against the Niners. Yeah, I don't know. He could ask for a lot. Well, he does get a 5th-year extension by the fact of being a first-round pick. So,
really, you're playing for that. Nope. There's no effing way.
Well, and the good thing is that rookies who perform well in their first 4 years and are looking at that 5th-year option, it tends to help produce that early contract rather than taking the 5th-year option. So that could end up being a good thing, both for the team and for the player.
I don't think that they're going to have a hard time paying an elite corner. I don't think that's going to be something that John and Pete look at and like, I don't know, positional value and all that stuff. I think Pete's going to be sure they open up the check.
They do have a history of paying really good players in the secondary.
They surely do.
So
it's with mixed results, but
mixed results especially when it came to the 3rd contract.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
But those are guys that you can give a good second year or a good second contract to.
Oh, heck yeah. Why not?
Hey, it's not our money, and it's 4 or 5 years down the road. So exactly. I say that this negotiation goes very, very well 4 years from now.
Yeah, just because.
What are you worried about, Jacob? Why are you looking this far down the road?
Yeah, the accolades are going to be so darn high that, you can't help but pay.
It's easy. With training camp, we talked a little bit about the defensive line and Jaron Reed being at nose tackle, how that maybe changes the perception of the defensive line a little bit. There's still some concerns, obviously, until we actually see this team's ability to stop the run consistently. I think that's going to be a question. And I can't wait till we're actually watching football.
And it's going to be here before you know it, bud.
Mock game coming up on Friday.
Yeah. I know you've been banting the idea of maybe trying to sneak our way in there.
Yeah, I think we might have to try. That's one thing that we haven't done in the history of the show is sneak into the mock game.
I think we should base jump into the mock game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do like the little Spider-Man thing up the side on the outside of the stadium to get over to get up onto the roof.
Yeah.
And then we base jump from one side of the roof to our seats on the opposite side of the field.
Or wherever they just let us land and don't arrest us. Like that'll work for me.
I don't think it's as cool if you just jump down into your seats as it is if you jump across the stadium, though.
Oh, yeah. No, you want the extra travel. You want to be seen. I mean, if you're doing it, it's like being a streaker. You gotta
do it to be
attention,
seen.
Right?
So do we watch the first quarter from the roof just to make sure that we actually get to see some of the action?
Yeah, before spending a night in the Seattle jail cell. But wait, we're not stealing anything over $1,000 or
we won't. There's no such thing as Seattle jail.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you could do a lot before the cops are finally like, yeah, no, you're going to jail now.
Yeah. It does seem like a silly thing to keep us in jail overnight for.
Might be in Pete's doghouse.
What, is he just not going to come on the show anymore?
Probably. Jeez, do you want to risk that?
I'll have to think about that.
Yeah.
Good question. Now, risking my first time being arrested, that part's easy. It's risking Pete never coming on the show.
Don't worry about it.
That's the bigger question.
It's a walk in the park. It's not a big deal getting arrested.
After your first time, you won't even worry about it.
Especially after your second time, you're like, oh, okay.
Okay, I've done this before.
Yeah. Who cares?
Well, I know some people who won't care. It's our members of the flock and supporters of the show. You think our executive producers are going to care when we're in jail? They're going to come up with
bail money, dude. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Get the bail money ready. DCH, Brian Shaw, and Becca Christensen. We've got our plans. Base jumping into Lumen Field.
I've never done it before. Is it hard?
Base jumping?
Yeah.
I've never done it before either.
Jump and pull. Well, you're in the Navy. Didn't you jump out of something at some point?
I never jumped out of anything.
Really?
Not from a high distance.
Oh, okay. I figured they'd like make you parachute somewhere once.
Never parachuted.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Never wore one of those little squirrel uniforms that have the flaps.
No, that's
open?
a hard pass on those.
No,
nope.
You don't want to do that?
Nope.
Okay.
No thanks. I love the videos and all, but yeah, man, that's
a little too hardcore.
That's flirting with a little too much disaster for my taste. The neighbor Brandon's thinking about doing the paragliding, the motor gliding with
yeah.
You basically strap a leaf blower to your back and fly around. That looks fun.
I don't even like the idea of. Have you seen the guys that go out on the lake that have like the jet packs that propel the water out?
Oh yeah.
It kind of looks fun, but I don't want to do it.
Oh, you're out on that?
Yeah.
Oh, if I ever get a water jet pack in my vicinity, I'm definitely doing it.
I think it could be dangerous.
You're the one who wants a hoverboard. And you don't want a jetpack? A water jetpack? What's gonna happen? You're gonna go splashy when you crash?
Water's hard if you go at it at a fast speed.
They're like what? Max 20 feet in the air?
I'm worried about it flipping over.
That's less than jumping off the bridge, dude.
Yeah.
Remember jumping off the bridge?
I do remember jumping off the bridge, but that was feet first. I'm worried about the jetpack flipping over, going down head first at 20 miles an hour.
Turn it into a dive, you big wuss. Come on.
See, when we did the diving in the Navy, we always went feet first. So that part of it's easy. That's
not diving. First. That's just jumping. How can you go diving if you go in feet first? They don't you go to the Olympics and participate in the high dive and jump off the thing and end up heel first.
The Navy didn't train me how to dive.
I don't know, man. Sounds like the Navy's a little backwards here.
Feet first, like a bunch of wusses.
Yeah.
Not a wuss, helping us keep from getting shut out this past week. Seahawks 17 out on YouTube. Donated $16.50 Canadian via YouTube throughout July. So thanks to Seahawks 17.
Appreciate it, man. They do a lot of comment work for us, man. They're big time fans. Appreciate them a ton. It's awesome.
Guaranteed barbecue, also awesome. If you stop by the food trailer in Kellogg, Idaho, and mention the Little Flockers discount, Garen's going to give you 12% off your entire order.
Sweet.
I think I might one up this. The first person to get to Garen in the next week, I'm buying your meal for free.
Sweet. So I get a free meal?
It might be you.
Yeah. If we're driving to Seattle.
It might be us stopping to have lunch with Garen. And so it'll just be whoever between the two of us gets to Garen first and mentions the Little Flocker discount. I will buy lunch. But it might just be buying lunch for myself.
As long as you enjoy it.
So if you're a Little Flocker, you can get to Kellogg, Idaho. See, this is your deadline then. You got to do it before, what, Thursday?
Yeah.
Clock's ticking.
Tick-tock.
If you want to become a member of the flock, you can go to getintheflock.com. $3 and above gets you into our Discord chat. It's where we're at on game day. Also, help pay for prizes for the Pick'em League. $5 and above. I might get around to sending you a patch at some point. Kind of delinquent on that. $12 and above gets you into our Facebook Ring of Honor, and $90 and above gets you mentioned with our list of executive producers and bail specialty people to win. We ultimately need you.
Absolutely. Yeah. We need all of you all the time. Don't let him make you think anything else.
No, we need everybody. But I'm just saying, with what we have planned, with this base jumping idea that we've come up with on the fly, more than 3 people providing bail money could be necessary.
How high is our bail going to be?
I don't.
You know what happens in Seattle? Base jumping out of the stadium seems like it's pretty tame.
It seems tame, but it might be one of those weird laws on the book to where,
right?
You know, you have to pay such a high fine to get out of jail that we don't have it. That I don't know. I don't know how it works. I'm not familiar enough, and this is part of the problem with Seattle laws with regards to the scheme, that maybe we get ourselves into bigger hot water than we are expecting.
All right, maybe we'll just go and sit in our seats then,
and then
dare somebody else to base jump in, a 49ers fan,
and then rob a bank or a local convenience store.
Yeah, right.
Seems less dangerous.
Yeah, a little bit.
On to do better and better at life.
All right, man. My do better this week is for Taylor Swift, and she knows what she did, so I don't want to hear anything about it. I don't know if you saw this, Brandon, but Taylor Swift broke Beast Mode's record. She recently performed at the stadium, and they had a Swiftquake.
Oh,
not
no.
a Beastquake, a Swiftquake. And the worst part is, Brandon, and this makes me feel like, I don't know, a little ashamed on the inside. Beastquake was around like a magnitude 1.
Yeah.
They beat us by double. The Swifties beat a magnitude 2.3 and the Swiftquake back at the home stadium, man.
Did they beat our decibel record too?
Yes.
Oh,
I think they did. And Taylor Swift is a ringleader of this nonsense. Just let us have nice things. Go do your concert in the Tacoma Dome or something like that. This really pisses me off. Taylor Swift, do better.
Oh, that is disappointing. I would have also had that as my do better this week, if not for the congressional hearing this past week on unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs.
See, I thought you could have just picked any subject, and I've been like, yeah.
Are you on board with this or what? Because this hearing this past week, it was billed as this whistleblower hearing about UFOs, which, I mean, when you hear UAPs, it's just whatever their new acronym for UFOs.
UAP. Can't say UFO because of the stigma or something. I don't know.
That's probably what they sounded like in the hearing, too. So they have this whistleblower hearing. Yeah. But then we have this guy who can't even answer questions without saying, we've got to go to a secure location to answer that kind of question. Dude, if you're having to go to a secure location to answer questions, you're not a whistleblower anymore. You're part of the problem. Like, you're not uncovering anything.
Are you a whistle sucker at that point?
I feel like.
Okay.
I also wasn't super crazy about this thing that came out of it of, they found non-human remains among the recovering of the craft that they had. Okay, non-human. Yeah, what did we send up in spacecraft before we sent humans? Monkeys, dogs. If it's non-human, that's not telling me anything.
Did they crash into a deer?
Right. Yeah. There's or, maybe some critter like a raccoon was looking for food and got stuck in the craft. Like, don't just tell us non-human. If you're going to get us excited about spacecraft and alien technology, you tell us that you found remains not of this Earth.
Nope. We can't handle it, buddy.
Nobody can handle it out here. But here we are having some congressional, hearing on UFOs and UAPs, and all we hear about Tic Tacs that move in freaky directions, which is something that we knew, 20 years ago. So for this congressional hearing, do better.
Do better for sure. This has been very frustrating. This is about the second one of these big UFO things that they've trotted up to the hill and tried to make a deal out of. And we're like, maybe we'll get some answers finally.
Maybe we'll hear something. Boy. Oh yeah, no, we got to be in a skiff and can't let this out into the public.
Yeah. They might all be like, hey, there's bigger things than all of our petty differences, and band together and throw their ass out of power. Like that's pretty much, I think, the long and short of it. So that's fun.
Disappointing.
Yeah. It's always disappointing. These guys are jerks, man. Show us the aliens.
Show us the aliens. Use words that we know, like UFOs and spacecraft.
UAP.
And, we recovered a UAP and have non-human remains.
I wish they would come clean with some of this stuff. It sounds like even the presidents don't get a full rundown either, which, like, if I got elected, that'd be the only reason I could think of to run for president.
Yeah.
Is to see the goodies on the aliens.
And if we didn't get that out of Trump, we're not getting it out of anybody.
That's a solid point. He would have taken the alien body home with him.
Right? And bragged about it. We would know.
Yeah. And then everybody would have been mad, even though it didn't do anything. So that'd have been cool.
Or they wouldn't believe him. Be like,
one of the three. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But what about Hillary's emails? Let's make sure we get that in there too.
There we go. On to Better at Life.
All right. My Better at Life this week, Brandon, is for Quandre Diggs and Tyler Lockett. And for a couple reasons. One, Quandre got his deal restructured and all that, helping out the team. I like that. That was really helpful and really cool. But the big reason is I heard Quandre get asked about being underrated. And apparently there was some safety list that was put out there of the best safeties or something like that.
Oh, I think it was just the top 100 list. And there were
just top 100
dudes ahead of Quandre.
Yeah. And I loved Quandre's response. He's like, I'm sick of being underrated. This is stupid. He's like, how many years do me and Tyler have to be like, I don't know, catfishing awesome before everybody is like, yeah, no, there's some of the best. He's like, yeah, but all the other safeties, all the other players, like they know, they tell me, and that's okay. Okay. Well, they all know. And they all told you, how did they vote the wrong way for this top 100 thing? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
But
how is Tyler not among the top wide receivers after all these years? It is a bit disrespectful to consistently refer to somebody as underrated.
Yes. Yeah, just rate them then. Like,
yeah.
You clearly know now.
It's like if you're telling me that our podcast after all these years is underrated, then we're doing something wrong.
Oh, unfortunately, I think we're properly rated, but
it might be properly rated by this point.
Yeah, I think that's where it's at. I mean, only like 4.8 stars on iTunes.
So help me if you leave a comment of 5 stars and saying that we're underrated.
We may just be forced to read it on the podcast and have a chuckle about it. Don't you make us do it.
Don't make us do it.
Yeah. I'll pull this pod over. I'll do it right now.
So Quandre Diggs,
Tyler Lockett, better at life than Skip Bayless. Yeah, a couple guys who are overlooked that shouldn't be. And I love Quandre's attitude about it. I just enjoyed the answer all the way around because he's dope.
Quandre is dope. Jarrett Bell of USA Today, also kind of dope with his last article coming out. It was the talk of the week as Sean Payton with some kind of explosive quotes. And I don't know quite how to feel about it. If he was either not on the record or thinking he was not on the record, or maybe compelled by Russell Wilson's team to be sure and get these quotes out to make sure that everybody knew that Russ wasn't at fault for last year. But in this article by Jarrett Bell, this quote from Sean Payton says, "Oh man, there's so much dirt around that," referring to last year's season. "There's 20 dirty hands for what was allowed, tolerated in the frickin' training rooms, the meeting rooms, the offense. I don't know Hackett. A lot of people had dirt on their hands. It wasn't just Russell. He didn't just flip. He still has it. This BS that he hit a wall, shoot. They couldn't get in a play. They were 29th in the league in pre-snap penalties on both sides of the ball." The quotes went on to say, "They can only beat the catfish out of you so much, but everybody's got a little stink on their hands. It's not just Russell. It was a poor offensive line. It might have been one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of the NFL. That's how bad it was. Everything I heard about last season, we're doing the opposite." And then this is the part that gets me into the Russ bit. It wasn't his fault, Payton said. That was the parents who allowed it. That's not an incrimination of him, but an incrimination on the head coach, the GM, the president, and everybody else who watched it all happen.
Holy smokes. Doesn't he work for that same GM and now these same owners?
I think the ownership group they just took over.
Yeah. He's talking shit about Condi right now.
Yeah.
Watch out, man. You might get mode, Sean.
Now, a quarterback having an office and a place to watch film is normal. but all those things get magnified when you're losing. And that other stuff, I've never heard of it. We're not doing that. So all these quotes coming from Sean Payton in Jarrett Bell's USA Today article for giving us some entertainment in terms of quotes and in terms of, I think, finding the coach that could turn Russ around this year. And really, it's just Russ getting out from under Hackett. I think it kind of confirms what some of the things we thought about the Broncos last year. But for Jarrett Bell, putting it all in print, better at life than Skip Bayless.
That's fun. I think he thought it was on record. I mean, Sean Payton's got enough FU money for sure.
Clearly, if he's talking trash about the GM and the leadership that was around that oversaw all this.
Yeah. You don't bark up the tree of the Waltons and Conde just to do it. But to be fair, that ownership group did not hire Hackett and or Russ. Those moves were made before they took over. So
that's right. So, although was Payton still there for George Payton, the GM?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So he's the one.
No, the GM one was interesting. Well, I was like, that's your GM, dude. Like, did he feel? I'm just curious if George Payton felt both axles when they went over him, or if just the one broke his back and he just didn't have any more feeling. So
that's Sean saying, "I'm the only Payton in town now." I think there's a certain part of it too of, hey, if I'm going to come in here and fix this, I think he's probably setting it up for himself too a little bit.
Sure.
To say, this is how bad it was, and now here I am, the savior, coming to turn this around.
It all plays nice, that's for sure. And look, man, I've said it a couple times on the pod now. I'm rooting for us for a bounce back year. I do think Sean Payton's that sort of dude who can get it done. But one thing I think I know for sure, Brandon, no, not even I think, is that the Seahawks are going to finish with 5 more wins than the Broncos at least this year. And I'm excited about that. I can't wait for their draft pick to come and ball out for us this year. That's going to be awesome.
5 more wins over the Broncos, 7 more wins than the stupid 49ers.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a great season for our Seahawks.
I can't wait. I can't wait for that 6.5 wins out of the Niners. And screw the 4-rack, man. Just screw them.
Once again, we've done it. We've gone through our 3 division rivals, and I'm glad we don't have to talk about them in this amount of depth until next year.
No. All I have to do is when it's the week that we play each and every one of them, just run my mouth about how we're going to beat them. And I look forward to that because it's happening.
And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.